All right, everybody. So, in podcast number 6, I have Kojo. What is your last name, Kojo?
Otoo.
Kojo Otoo.
Yep.
I met Kojo through the RA program, resident assistant program at CSU. I think it was my junior year and his sophomore year. Had to have been, because you can't be a RA freshman year. That'd be some weird setup if that was the case, right? If we had to do that. Actually, before I get started, I did Google your name, Kojo, and what it meant, and I don't know if you've ever done that, but I like to do that for everyone, and kind of what Google has to say about everybody, or what someone has said, and not just only in Google. I put it in Urban Dictionary, which is kind of funny sometimes. You get funny results from it. So I'm gonna go ahead and read what Kojo, what the top definition in Urban Dictionary is. Right, Kojo is a simple guy who doesn't live life to satisfy others, but always thinking on how to make money and how to get more properties. Also loyal to his family and friends. So that's kind of the definition. Is there anything in that like...
Oh, definitely. Almost all of it.
You think so?
Basically, I love to make money.
Make money,
so.
Get more properties. You're loyal to your family and friends.
Oh, trust me. Because
now,
I'm thinking of, because after, I moved out of, Colorado, within, a couple months, I'm planning on, just getting a house out there.
Yeah.
And even after, I leave, because I'll probably be there for 2 years. This is my duty station. So after I leave, I'll probably, because there's a college right by, so I'll probably just put it for lease, just get more properties, because that's one thing I learned from one of the retired officers that I met in the Air Force, and he has over 6 to 8 properties, and he manages all of them himself. And he retired, and now he's a United pilot. So basically, right now he's making bank over that. So.
Mishka, yeah, and Mishka's our third guest, not really providing much value to our podcast, more distraction. So you said you're thinking of moving to Colorado Springs?
No, I'm moving to Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio. So I'm commissioning as a second lieutenant in the next 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
And then right after that, I already got my job as a developmental engineer for them. So I'll be moving to Ohio as my duty location. I'll be working in NASIC, which is the National Airspace Defense Sector. Basically, they control all assets and, trying to protect the homeland. So that's where I'm going to be working, which is an irony, because for the past 2 years, I've been working for Northrop Grumman as an intern, and have done the missile aspect and done the space aspect. So now they're just putting me back into something I've already done, which is not a lot of lieutenants, because not a lot of lieutenants usually have that vast amount of experience before they start their first job. So I feel right now I'm way more prepared than most would be, because I already know the job. I just need to get acquainted to the location.
Absolutely, and the environment there, and the people there, your teammates, your coworkers. But so second lieutenant, I'm not sure if I'm being completely frank. I don't know exactly how the lieutenant or the rankings in the military, and this is Air Force we're talking about, right? So you're in the Air Force, and you got into the Air Force program through ROTC, right? And that started from high school.
No, actually it started from college, because I didn't have any idea about it in high school. I only knew about the Air Force Academy, which was my number one goal throughout my junior year, senior year of high school. But for some reason I didn't get accepted into it. So
they missed out.
Yeah, so someone recommended yo, you can try a university in Colorado, do an ROTC program, and then after a year transfer to the academy, because by then you have all the experience. I was dope. So that was the reason why I was okay, cool, I'm coming to CSU, because I had not been to CSU to visit at all, to see how things are. So I stepped foot into CSU the first day of orientation, and I was wow, this is way different than I'm used to. And at that moment, I realized that I needed to do more. So I think after a semester of being at CSU, that's when I decided this is pretty cool. I don't want to leave. And that's when I stayed in CSU. And 5 years later, here I am, graduating with a bachelor's in electrical engineering, which I never expected because I was doing computer engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So that aspect of switching from computer to electrical, it was like a click my second semester of sophomore year. Because that's when I realized that, it's kind of bullshit. Like with the way the computer science department and electrical department communicates, because I had classes that were synced up to be the same. And I was like, how am I going to take two classes at the same time? And it was not working out, and you needed to take those classes every single year in order to graduate on time. And already I was pushing 5 years, and I couldn't push it more. So I decided to switch my concentration, and life was better after that. Sleep came. And I was like, I should have known this in the beginning, and I wouldn't have gone through sleepless nights, staying up till 3 a.m., knowing that I have to be up by 5 a.m. to prepare for Air Force PT, which is physical training in the morning.
For ROTC.
Yeah, for ROTC. And then I did that 3 times a week, and I had to do my own workout sessions out of that. So most of the times I was really exhausted going into class and then passing out in class.
Mm-hmm.
The struggle. I think my professors were like, what the heck is going on with this dude? Always passing out towards the end of class. But I didn't even know I hadn't slept. Sometimes 2 hours, sometimes an hour a day.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That goes to show your determination to something, and I guess your loyalty. I mean, I think in that definition that we were reading, that Urban Dictionary, it says something about loyalty, right? And if you're loyal and or committing to something, ROTC, the career path that you chose in college being computer science and electrical engineering, which is a dual degree offered at CSU, right? That you made, honestly, health sacrifices, because there is big health factors, right? To, I mean, maybe we're not thinking about this in college, right? We hardly ever think about what we're putting in our body. You're drinking Monster energy drinks, the cafeteria food, and sleeping X amount of, as you were saying, 2 hours at some points, right? Just to get a passing grade is quite insane. The fact that we do that to ourselves for, I don't know, man. I at times I think about it and what the value of that piece of paper, the degree and what it's worth. I sometimes think about what's the true value of it now, and it does have a lot of value. But I don't know if I would, looking back on it, put as much emphasis and or focus and or lose a lot of sleep, because I think everyone wants to be an A student. I don't think anyone wants to go in there and be like, oh, I want to get a B, right? But the more you think about it, the losing sleep. But at the same time, I just couldn't stop. If I was to look back on it, I couldn't go back and be like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to try so hard on this test. I just want to get a B or C. That's fine with me, right?
Yeah.
That just doesn't align with my personality. But yeah, no, I mean, you kind of went a similar path that I did when it came to school. I did the dual program at CSU. I started with the bioengineering and electrical engineering. It was a dual path program at CSU. And I was like, that's a 5-year for sure guaranteed path. And I was like, I think it was after the first year, I was like, I don't want to wait 5 years. I want to try to get out of here as fast as possible.
True.
And also, I wasn't really actually I did the bio side of engineering, but for whatever reason, the sleep or just the workload that it was putting on me, and I wasn't even doing ROTC, so props, hats off to you, because that is another challenge that we take for granted, or at least in college, you're walking around and you think you're tired, right? You're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I just binged, or I played video games or whatever, but you had a commitment to I guess a brotherhood of people, right? A program at CSU that you had to wake up, work out from 5 a.m. to X amount of time, right? Then go to school and be a regular student. I think it's sometimes underappreciated, or sometimes we don't even acknowledge that's going on. So props to you, dude. And electrical engineering, I think we both have, or I know we both have the same degree. Did you do it in 4 years as well?
No, I did it in 5 years because I came in as open option. So after I actually declared into that degree of ECE, computer engineering. my second semester.
Mm-hmm.
So by then, like I still needed to like take like the
Calculus and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had to take all those classes and then also take the engineering classes that I had missed because like I was just like a regular student trying to figure out if I wanted to be an engineer. And so by then, like I was like 3 to 4 classes behind. So actually, right after my freshman year, which most people don't do, I actually took a summer class down in Denver at Metro State. I was doing like a Calc 2 class and then also doing some online classes because I was like, okay, I'm determined. I need to be hitting 18, 19, 18 credits all semesters in order to like get that degree. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, like I wasted a lot of time on some classes which they could have just taken out of the curriculum. Because just this past Friday, like I was a panelist on the Engineering Days virtual event, which
for CSU.
For CSU, and that was like interesting because I just sat in front of like a bunch of people just to talk to them about the different things that I had to endure in order to like go through like senior design and just be an engineering student in general. And it was at that moment that it hit me that there is so many dry material that we go through as like college students in the beginning because all that matters is usually your junior and senior level classes. That's what gets you the job. The rest are just like things that if you could take in high school and avoid not having to take it in college, you could be done in college like literally in like 3 years and have every like single thing that you require to get a job and not use any of them because they will retrain you on everything they need you to do. So yeah, that aspect was interesting because for me it was also weird because people were like on energy drinks and stuff to survive. Mine was purely water. Because once you drink like a gallon of water like every 30 minutes and you're just like you keep going like that, there's like this idea of you have to keep getting up in order to go pee. So you're focused because you can't fall asleep at this point because caffeine only makes you like drowsy and you almost pass out. Yeah. So like mine was water. That was like my aspect to be
water.
Like, yeah.
And the fact that you have to go pee.
Yeah.
was the thing that kept you awake.
Oh, trust me.
Oh my God.
I was up and sometimes like my residents, because like being an RA, my door was always open. And my residents will walk in from partying and will come in around 2 a.m. and they're like, why is this door still open? And residents are not supposed to be drinking because they're underneath the age. And then they come in super drunk and immediately just come sit because I had a futon in my door. And they would just come sit by me and just start talking. And I'm like, this is a great time to like be distracted from doing homework. So we'll just talk until they're tired and I'll be like, okay, cool. I just like hold their hand, get them to their
So you outlasted them in a sense.
Oh yeah, and basically like put them there, and then they'll go to bed, and then in the morning they'll wake up, and then they'll see me, and they'll be like, what happened? I just remember coming back, and then you were just talking to me, and I was like, don't worry about it. I don't want to deal with anything. I got your back. So I'm glad you slept it off, and you're good now. So yeah, just carry on with your day. You let me know if you need anything. I guess that's the reason why I bonded with my residents so much, because right now they're all graduating with me, since most of them that were 4 years and I was 5 years. We just lined up. So like I see them and they're just like so joyful to have ever met me, because like they still just talk to me as if like I'm like a past relative that they've known for years. And I think that aspect of building friendship is strong when you do jobs like that in the university. Apart from that, the academics is not fun. The people you meet and the activities you engage in, that's where all the fun is. Because I remember like after I met you, Ducey and Will and the other Will, like basically I'll go biking, you do crazy stuff, and I'd be like, yeah, I want to be part of it and have fun. But then I was like, I gotta do homework. So it prevented me from like engaging in more like activities until like one time, I guess it was sometime like in the beginning before the semester started, we all decided to go on a bike ride. I don't know if you were there, but we rode into Old Town to go visit a couple of a couple of friends down there, and it was fun because
This is when they had the carnival, the fair.
Yeah, they had
the
that,
state fair.
Yeah, the state fair where we.
I was there.
Yeah, we went and then we bought some slushies, and then they had.
Because Ben was there. Yeah. Will was there. And then they were on skates. I want to say
they were
Will
on
Osborne,
skates. They were on bikes.
Oh, who else was there? What is her name?
Julia
was there.
And then
that's when we snuck into the fair, right? Like through the back gate.
That was impressive because we thought we were gonna get caught. Because the first initial thing was we were gonna get caught, so we stopped and went around and we found a different entrance. And then we went in. It was a fun time because we were there for a solid couple of hours.
Breaking laws.
Yeah, before we left.
No, I'm kidding. We were breaking laws.
And I remember that was like by far the funnest time I had at CSU. Because everything had been academic, so at that point I had just realized that this is what college should be about.
There's more to it.
There's more to it, and if you're not figuring it out, you're kind of losing losing all that aspects of it. And later on, when you finish, you graduate college, that's when you remember, oh shoot, I should have had more fun than I did. So I was glad because after that, I started being adventurous, going on hikes and just being out there. And I was crazy because I was working out twice a day. I'll do my Air Force workout in the morning, and I'll do my own personal workout in the gym in the evening. Come back, and then I have weights in my dorm, and then just hit a couple 30-minute workouts and stuff. Because I was in order to have fun, you gotta have the physique and you gotta have the strength, because you don't want to get sick and miss out on all those things.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad I did that because I can probably tell you within the past 5 years I haven't gotten sick where I was literally broken and couldn't walk or do anything, because I've just been fit and just living life.
There's something to be said about that, that I 100% believe in that mentality, right? And keeping your temple, as in your body, your mind, and your spirit in a healthy state. And that includes drinking lots of water. That includes eating the right foods, working out, cardio workouts, increasing your muscle mass. I heard today people who have bigger, more muscle mass have a better immune system. Taking the right vitamins too, right? Treating your body correctly, right? And that's something that isn't being preached and or broadcasted in today's society, right? It's more of the instant cures, like vaccination. And not that there's nothing wrong with vaccinations. By all means, go get your vaccination, right? And the thing is, we're not focusing on kind of the root cause of these problems, right? A lot of the people that get really sick from coronavirus or any other virus and or disease, could help their case out if they were healthier, had better better stats body wise, whether there's cholesterol, blood pressure, and all these different contributors, right? And I think that's something that everyone should focus on, and I would almost mandate that to everyone. If I was let's say in a president role, I would want that to be something that I push out to all Americans in the whole world, right? That they focus on their health. Right now, you might not be sick right now. You might be content and comfortable, but you have to focus on taking care of yourself, your body, because most of the people that I talk to that have gotten the coronavirus, if they are in a healthy state, unfortunately they are, right? They're not getting any of these crazy symptoms and or deadly symptoms, right? And by no means have I researched any of this, but I want to say that a big and or some research that has come out is people who do have life-threatening disease from coronavirus have pre-existing conditions. I know obesity is, honestly, I think kills more people than the coronavirus in the whole world, right? And we kind of just nudge that off instead of being hey, how about we focus on that too as well, right? How about we focus on getting people into a fitter state? And there's, I don't know, because I know there's that whole movement too with fat shaming, right? And kind of fat shaming as it is, right? And what I mean by fat shaming is basically calling people fat or making fat people feel bad and not comfortable with their bodies, right? And in a sense, be comfortable with your body, but I think you have to also acknowledge that the health, not benefits, but the health risks that you carry when you do have overweight issues or aren't taking care of yourself. So that's something that for me, if I was in a president role, I would absolutely try to push off to all people, is to drink more water, take the appropriate vitamins, multivitamins that have proven to have benefits to you physically, right? And working out, man. Working out is, I think I started working out in college too. I started working out in football. Sorry. In high school, I was in the football program. And that was when I first got a taste of like lifting weights.
Yeah.
And since then, I was kind of hooked. At one point, I was like, I don't really like football as much as I like just lifting weights and like getting new PR records or like personal records, right? And just pushing my limits. And then that's kind of where I started my health journey to want to have a nice physique and to push myself, right? So then we went to CSU, and CSU, Colorado State University, has like a top of the line gym, or one of the coolest gyms I've ever been to. They have nice equipment. Everything you could ask for is at that gym. And basically, since then, I started working out, got into like muscle building programs and whatnot, and like started eating the right things, and in a sense, just started taking care of myself. And like yourself, like I actually got coronavirus in September of last year, 2020, right? And I want to say, I mean, for that, like I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and Phoenix is a little bit more liberal with their rules about what you can do and when you can go out and whatnot. So we went out to the bars. They obviously had social distancing, but like when you're drunk and you have a bunch of drunk people trying to social distance, like
it's not working.
On paper, it's like, oh yeah, social distancing at the bars, it'll work. But then once you're at the bar, like it almost seems like it's not the case, right? And I want to say that that's where I got my coronavirus, or I for sure got it in Phoenix, but it almost seemed like a really bad hangover. Like it was a combination of being hungover and having it, right? And it seems very privileged and like fortunate, you know, to me to be saying these things in like in a plain matter with like a serious disease, but like it kind of goes to show that I want to say that I want to contribute a lot of that was because I took care of myself so well going into anything, right? Like going into Phoenix, or like throughout my whole life now, I like to say that I've maintained a good physique, right? And or not even physique, but just good health in general. And that's something that I think just needs to be pushed more onto people. More ownership needs to go onto people of be like, hey, you got to start worrying about this. Like, it's no longer something that we can just skirt off to the side, or else we will see more dramatic swings with viruses or diseases, right? Because it will affect those that have the weaker immune system, and those usually have correlations with being overweight, I guess, is one of the things. And there are obviously some areas where you are overweight and it's not necessarily your fault, right? Where like you have like a thyroid, I think, issue. I think that's like a certain case. And also the fact that cheap food is bad, or it has really it isn't healthy for you, right? Like McDonald's is $1 for a high and spicy, but then you go into the vegetable aisle and then like one apple is like $1 type of thing, right? So there's a lot of factors, but I think we can all make the sacrifices, whether it's on our wallet, to try to make ourselves better. And I think, I mean, from you, ever since I've met you, Kojo, like I've seen that you do take care of your body, you do take care of yourself. I don't think there was ever a time where I didn't see you understanding that concept. And even to this day, like I saw you today and I was like, I think you're more jacked than when I first saw you like in college. So it's like it's only been continuing and progressing for you, right? So I mean, there's so many topics I want to go to. Like I want to talk about the state fair bicycle run when we did that. That was really, so put a bookmark on that. The RA experience, because I have my own comments and critiques about that experience as a whole, and as you were saying, like the experiences that you did. So we'll put bookmarks on that, and also I want to know about your health routine, like what you do to work out. But before we go into that, I do have some logistics I want to get over. And one of the things about my podcast that I like to do is like at least have one takeaway value that someone has for sure guaranteed, and that is one word, like a word that you can come out of this experience and be like, hey, I learned a new word today, babe. Like the word is going to be solace. Do you know the word solace?
I have heard it. I've heard the word. And
if you want to try to define it, cool. If not, I could give the definition.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and give the definition.
So solace, it's comfort or consolation in a time of distress or sadness.
Mm-hmm.
So comfort and solace. So like you give someone solace when they're in a really bad place, stressed out, sad, and you go and try to consolation. So it's kind of like a shortened version of consolation.
Yeah.
Solace.
It's more of like the self-care aspect that we always got in college. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you got to take care of yourself. It was always preached, but there was nothing being done about that in terms of letting students know how to do it. Because I feel like students came into college and they were always like burnt out, but then they were being told, like, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. And most people missed out on that because they didn't know the aspects of like, how do I take care of myself and how do I stay sane? Because mental health is like one of the biggest issues, especially when you get to college, because that's where if you have any issues, they're going to flare up because like everything is going to trigger some aspect in you where you're going to think like, yeah, like I'm struggling, but then how do I seek help? So I feel like back then it was more of like your friendship circles and then the people around you could help in certain aspects, and that's where it comes in handy when you have the right people. Because I feel like having the right people, they hold you accountable. There is that responsibility aspect of making sure that you're not always like just like focus on one thing and you're burning yourself out, but then they're trying to pick you out of like your bubble, spread you out, and then make you like feel more relaxed. So once you get back into that bubble, you're not like you don't feel like you're being like isolated, or you don't feel claustrophobic in your own bubble, because at this point you're tired of everything going on around. And especially in like today's world with everything going around in like race and other like political aspects, it's hard, but you just got to realize that nothing starts with just you. You have to make sure you include other people in like taking care of yourself and just being responsible. Because for me, when I started my journey into fitness, it was more of like, what can I do in order to make sure this is consistent? It was more about being accountable with friends. So like I had my roommate back in college, my freshman year. We would always go to the gym together. And he started slacking out because he was like, nah, I don't want to go to the gym at like 6 a.m. in the morning when I was already up, and I'm like, yo, we gotta go. To the point where sometimes I would literally like, because I have my bunk bed and his was like a little lowered, but we put it underneath each other. So I'd usually like kick him and be like, yo, we gotta go. Like, I'm already up. And he would be like, yeah. He complained for a little bit, but he would still go. But at that point, it was more like he saw progress just getting up and doing something in order to invest in himself. And later on, like after like I switched into the RA role, and he just kind of spiraled because like college was not for him anymore and he left. Like that's when I saw that like he had just like let himself go. He didn't care about anything anymore. And then later on, like I was talking to him and I was like, dude, like what is your plan? What is your next plan? Because he was in ROTC as well, but it didn't work out. So he decided, it was actually my sophomore year towards like junior year, when he was like, yeah, I want to enlist into the Air Force and do something with my life. And I was like really encouraging because he took the enlistment aspect while I was taking the officer aspect. So right now, like he graduated, I think about close to a year ago from basic training, and now he's working the enlisted job. It seems like he's having fun because I see him and he's like actually more lively than he was in college. And it's just a different dynamic because he wanted the officer route but ended up getting the enlisted route. And now that I'm about to be an officer, I see it as a responsibility to make sure I keep checking up on him and encouraging him, because there's a potential for him to like transition into the officer role, but then he will have to finish his bachelor's degree. So that accountability aspect needs to like be like had, because I feel like when we became roommates initially, I was like, I'm gonna hold you accountable and I'm gonna make sure you live a good life. And then this is me going back and then being able to honor those wishes and tell him like, this is what we said. Now that we're here, you've had time to like figure out things. Now we gotta push you to other aspects so you can figure out that what's next for you. What top level lifestyle do you want to live, and how are you gonna achieve that? Because I think those are all conversations that should be had when you have friends in groups, or just like, for me, like sometimes I don't even know people. Like I just like start talking to them, and immediately there's a connection, and then I try to build a friendship in order for them to be like, yeah, I just made a friend without even trying, and that person holds me more accountable than the people that have known me like better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the lifestyle that I hope to like
foster.
Yeah, let other people know that it is the real world, and it's dangerous, and it's filled with all unknown uncertainties, but we can make it what we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it goes to show another aspect of this loyalty that you have mm-hmm. about yourself, because I know for a fact a lot of people, if not like 98% of the population of college, don't even communicate or even have the thought of their first roommate in the back mm-hmm. of their head, or even had like the kindness to hold them accountable for things. Because I think being accountable or holding people accountable comes from a place of love, in the sense that you want them to succeed, you want them to accomplish what they set out to do initially, right? Or what they had said initially. And the fact that you still have that in the back of your head, you're still like, hey, I want to try to keep in contact, I want to keep on pushing this person to strive to achieve their goals. Even for me, I guess it would have been 7 years ago, like a 7-year-old roommate that I had. For me, my roommate wasn't random, but I don't know, was yours random?
Yeah, mine was actually random.
So again, this is a stranger coming into your life, and the fact that you still, I mean, let's say you were in my shoes 7 years ago, have them in the back of your head of like, hey, I want to hold them accountable to what they were, and I'm still loyal to trying to help them out. That says, again, a lot about your character and your personality, and the fact that like you do hold or when you establish relationships with people, it's not something of a flimsy thing. It's like mm-hmm. like I'm committing to this thing with the amount of energy that I can provide into it. So that is really cool to see, and I think for me, something that I want to try to do, because I do have a lot of friendships and acquaintances throughout life, right? But the amount of strength that the bond that I have within each people or each person, right, isn't maybe as strong as it is with having a smaller circle, right? And that's something that lingers in my mind from time to time. But I think it just comes with different personality styles. But I think I can take away something from your character and the way you live life, in the sense that you can still kind of just checking in on people, holding them accountable to these things, and throughout life, you don't have to, or at least the way I'm seeing it is like, I don't have to have a full blown every week, hey, how's it going, dude? Everything's good, everything's whatnot, but still trying to do my part of reaching out to that person, right? Because easily that person can stop reaching out to me or whatnot. But I think there's a certain beauty in me just being like, hey, I just want to stay connected. I want to say what's up. I hope you're still doing well. So keep on doing that. I think that's something that is of value. And this whole conversation kind of started with like mental health in college, and surrounding yourself around people that will push you and make you a better person, right? And I think that's the thing that sometimes is very hard for new college kids to understand, and or how to facilitate getting new friendships. For some people who are extroverts, maybe that comes super easy. They're just going around the hall screaming and yelling, and everyone's like, oh, I want to be with that guy. He's like really loud and making all the noise in this hall. I want to kick it with that person. But there is certain people that go into school that are, for one, like going to a whole different, like I went into the college experience with high school friends. So already I had to step up above everyone else, in the sense of like I had a small circle. If that small circle met new people, those new people were in a sense now people that I knew just through that connection, right? And if I didn't have those friendships going into school, I think I would have for sure been a whole, like that little difference of having friends to start off with and not having friends to start off with would have made me a whole different person. I already know I would have been a whole different person if it wasn't for that small group of people that came into school. And for better or worse, I don't know, and I don't want to even think about what would have been better for me if I did or didn't. But I would, just from my experience, I would want to recommend people go out of their way, step out of their comfort zone, and not even because like a lot of us or whoever's listening to this maybe isn't going to college, right?
Yeah.
But like wherever you go, new job, new neighborhood, whatever you're starting new, I think there's certain value in putting yourself out there, like making yourself open, making yourself vulnerable, and seeing who else is in your community that you can talk to, get different perspectives on. And there's a certain unity and or comfort with having other people that are going through the same struggle as you, because I don't know, there's like a therapeutic sense in the people that you hold around you. And I'm also a huge believer in like the 5 people you surround yourself kind of make up who you are as a person, right? And there's a lot of value that is in that, or a lot of truth that does come out of that. And ideally, like if you don't have anyone at all around you, right, it makes it really difficult to have that. And one of my cheat codes to this not having physical people is books, right? Books is almost a figurative person, right? You could read an Albert Einstein biography, and in a sense, this is now a friend of yours, right? Is in this book. And that's something that I've come to realize through reading, right? Is that these group of friends don't have to be physical people. They could be entities on the internet as well, right? Actual entities that live across the ocean, or actual dead people in a sense, right? That wrote these books, and you immerse yourself in that. You learn from said people. But yeah, I think it all starts with you personally, because the thing that I also try to live by is like I can only control what I have control over, type of thing, and that is myself. So like if I want to make friends, I can't expect friends just come out of nowhere, and they're like me go to the street and someone's like, hey, do you want to be my friend, Eric? And I'm like, that's not how it's gonna work. I have to extend the olive branch and be like, hey, like, hi, how's it going? Like, my name's Eric, nice to meet you. What is your name? And get to know people. And I know that those social skills are, in a sense, for some people, it's almost like a frightening thing. It's almost like being scared of heights is being, or like, I know the number one fear, or this was a year ago that I had read this fact, but the number one fear that most Americans, I think, have in the world isn't like being murdered or heights. It's actually like the fear of like public speaking. Yeah. And that to me also kind of goes to show that we're kind of just becoming more and more introverted in a sense, right? But there is a certain beauty and connection, and or I think humans just naturally need to connect and talk to one another and establish those friendships, because going through a situation with friends makes it a whole lot better than going through it alone.
Yeah, I think the right environment can change the way someone is. Because like me coming out of high school, I was like a really like introverted person. Like I barely knew anyone in my high school. Like I just had like this little group and that was it. And now like going into college, like my first day in college, like after Ram Welcome, was like, something I had never done before. Just like stepping up to someone and be like, yo, I am this person. Like, my name is Kojo. Like, what's your name? And just like getting to know people for like, and it was kind of weird because people were like, yo, why is this person just talking to me out of nowhere? Because that's that experience. Because shifting from the environment where we've known ourselves for like years to a different environment and trying to adapt, that was like an interesting phenomenon. Like situation going on, because like I have this one friend, Matt. I actually met him through my roommate, and we've just had like that connection, even though like when the pandemic hit, like we haven't seen each other for like a while now. We still have that communication aspect going on like every once in a while. And then I was just like messaging him like this past like couple of weeks, and I was like, yo, we need to hang out before like you leave, because like he's gonna leave, I'm gonna leave. Like, college brings you together and it splits you back up again. And I was like, yeah, we need to connect and see how life is going for each other, because I feel like he was on the 5-year degree and I was on the 5-year degree, and we always kept in contact with each other, checked on each other. And I was basically like, sometimes I would just surprise him like close to his lab, and I'd be like, yo, what's up? And he'd be like, yo, what are you doing here? And I'd be like, yeah, I don't have nothing going on because my lab just got out. And he's like, yo, this is really dope. Like, I haven't seen it in a while. And we just like sit there. We think we've just been talking for 5 minutes, but then we end up talking for like hours, because it's just, catching up. And I think that dynamic changes per the environment that you're in, because this would have never happened if I had never gone to college. And I feel like it's also different, even if you don't go to college, like leaving your comfort zone in an environment that you know can be the reason why you get to know other people and, like, you know, speak out for yourself. Because the whole idea of like being able to speak for oneself, where people don't like public speaking. In high school, like I was introverted, but I was like up for the challenge of like public speaking, because I joined a debate team and I joined a robotics team in high school, and people would just shy away from talking, and I'd be like, yo, put me in coach, like that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And just realizing that I just tailored my life based on what I wanted, and then it turned into something that I never expected, because it put me out of the bubble that I thought was smaller, and now it's just bigger with more freedom to do more things that I never thought I would do. Because if I tell you like right now that I'm not afraid to just like step on like climb a rock climb to something that's like above like 80 meters long, and then just jump off a slingshot and do all those cool things. Like me in high school would never do that. I would not even go close to any of that. But then I came into college, and you know, Colorado State University's mountain campus has that entire like entire setup. And then so the first time I went there, I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. And something hit me. Why not try? And I tried it and I loved it. And ever since then, like I took a couple like flying classes. I learned how to fly a plane, and that was crazy because I was in like a single engine plane with a 4-seater, and basically like the pilot was like my first time. He was like, you want to try and take off? And I was like, how do I take off the plane? He was like, yeah, I will show you everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You learned that at CSU?
Yeah, I did learn that, and it was through the ROTC program too. And basically he showed me everything that I needed to know about like flying a plane. And I was like really scared, but I was in control of the plane, because he was just in the co-pilot seat and I was like actually taking over the pilot seat. So like radioing into tower and telling them I'm about to take off, and then just like pulling the full throttle and then lifting the plane off. That was like a surreal environment where I started to feel like, oh, I'm in outer space. Yeah. And then I flew over like a Fort Collins community, Loveland community, and did some barrel rolls. I pulled a couple G's, which was like incredible, because he was like, watch this, like pull out anything out of your pocket, put it on the dash, and now I want you to like pull the throttle, like pull the wheel all the way up. And then so we just like slingshot like a fighter jet into the air. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he was like, push it all the way down, push it down, and then the plane
started floating.
Everything started floating. And I was like, this is an experience that most people don't get to have.
Absolutely.
Not. And I got that, and ever since then I have just been interested about flying. So like even as an engineer, now I have plans like after I start my first job in the Air Force as a developmental engineer, I'm gonna transition into something like a test pilot engineer, because like they have engineer test pilots who basically fly most of these aircrafts that are created, but then it's like still in test and they need to
like a prototype.
Yeah, prototype. It needs to keep an eye on certain things. I could fly those and still have that like situational awareness of like that I'm living life. And then potentially like I was just like talking about this, and I was like, I want to look into something in like about NASA, but I don't want to be the one to like go to a foreign like world, like a foreign planet. I just want to stay within the rims of the Earth and explore it. And I was just talking this over with a couple of friends that we're trying to explore space. What about the ocean, the vast amount of ocean space that we still don't know anything about? Because if anything was to happen to the world as we know it, like majority of it is covered by water. So if we explore the water, if anything happens and then the water comes back onto land, at least we still have a place underwater to still live until like things start to settle. We don't just leave the planet that we're on to a different planet, because we don't know what else is out there, and that's what they're trying to figure out. But I feel like we should equally explore the Earth as we explore outer space. So
I 100% agree with that. I want to maybe just for trying to put on my scientific hat on, like I want to say that it's easier to explore space, and that the reason I say that is because I think once you get into the depth of the ocean, like pressure and water pressure becomes something that becomes almost not impossible, but it's a really hard problem to solve, right? When you have tons of water, columns of water above you, putting immense amount of pressure upon whatever ship, submarine you have, right? Which makes exploration that much tougher, right? And or maybe living down in certain, I think living down in ocean spaces doesn't have to mean we're going to Marianas Trench and we're gonna set up house down there, right? Absolutely, we could just set up house 1,000 feet down, or 1,000 feet below sea level type of thing, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be the deepest depth, but I think when it comes to exploring deep sea stuff, I think that's one of the biggest cruxes to figuring out like what is down there is the fact that you have all this immense amount of pressure that is basically pushed upon you, and you think space would be harder. This is just conjecture, just thinking out loud. By all means, this could be something like, oh, that's easy, that's already been solved, Eric. Like, you're tripping out about nothing, right? So, by all means, but I think in space, like, you have like the whole kind of like atmospheric pressure being zero, I guess, right? And then much. Like now you're exposed to all these particulates in space. You also have ultraviolet wavelengths and wavelengths just hitting you in all directions type of thing. And the way that our body reacts to that, I guess we can do a little bit more testing with that. I don't know. It's kind of a tough one because you're right. Why don't we explore the sea more? But maybe it's because technology wise we have the technology to explore sea, but like with space, because I know that's kind of a lot of the leading or the driving force for like getting us to the moon. Like at one point it's like, what is the economic reason for getting us to the moon? But like a lot of the people don't come to understand that there's actually like a lot of benefits into products that come out of researching how to, because I think the first power drill came from like the NASA space program getting us to the moon because they needed powerless or like a power cordless drill to operate outside of the space station, right? And also I think that's the reason we have streets with grooves in them. I don't know if you knew that, but like the highways have grooves in them, or some highways have grooves in them. And one of the reasons for that, that was actually developed through the NASA space program when they were landing these gliders, right? Is because they don't have ways of turning the glider or the NASA shuttle when it's coming to land. They don't have ways of controlling it. So the grooves on the pavement, I believe, are one of the guiding factors for keeping the shuttle in line. And then you bring these factors into the real world. Like there's scientific reasons for them and or cool things that you're doing of like getting people to space, and then there's also byproducts that come out of it that do stimulate economic markets or whatnot, right? And maybe that's a reason why there's not a lot of interest and or economic interest in sea exploration, because there's not much tools that are coming out of it compared to like satellites, or like we have Elon Musk and SpaceX, right? One thing that he's doing is he's launching like these Starlink satellites so that everyone in the planet can have internet, right? And or everyone in the planet can now be connected to this global source and or the internet. Because I want to say that, I guess we could actually look it up, and I'll look up what is the population that has internet. So what amount of population has internet? And we will see. So it says, as of January 2021, there are 4.66 billion active internet users. So 59.5% of the world. So let's say 50% of the world doesn't have internet, right? And there's all this untapped potential in these countries, right? That they could have great ideas and they just need to know how to apply them. And like with us, we have this magical box in our hand that basically is now our new God. Like it really, you could ask it anything, and it previously you would ask the Bible, right? Like, hey, like I'm struggling with my marriage. Like, what do I do in these situations? Now you ask this pocket God, and it tells you anything and everything. Like I become all powerful with this phone. I was able to pull out all those information, and now imagine if we can give that to the whole world, right? The whole world now has access to the internet, we now have access to these untapped ideas. So there is like that benefit that comes with that, and like with, I guess, SpaceX, right, and like being able to launch people into space, or not people, but at a cheap economic price, launch satellites easier. So maybe there's more of an economic driving force to want to push things into space than down here. Because I think it's sad to say, but like with the capitalistic mindset, usually the things that we invest in and or research more is things that will at the end have more economic impact for, or like economic benefits for us, you know, because there's a lot of things of like protecting the rainforest, right, protecting Mother Nature. I mean, we just went through Earth Day, or not went through, but we just celebrated Earth Day, a couple of days ago, 22nd? A couple of days ago, right? We celebrated Earth Day. And it almost seems like we celebrated, but the people that need to make changes, big impactful changes, aren't doing those things, right? And because there's no economic benefit to them. They're like, hey, the government hasn't told me I don't have to change the way I make this plastic, or the way that I package foods, or the way that we produce oil, or like there's no economic interest, or I guess, sorry, there's no political interest to be like, hey, we need to go to electric cars, right? Right now there's more of a economic interest. People are seeing, hey, Elon Musk and Tesla are making a lot of money with green or electric cars. So that is something that we should go to. So it kind of goes to show that money's kind of, in a sense, like this driving factor that kind of guides where science goes. And I think that's really wayward. I think science should, in a sense, be guiding where economics goes. But scientists kind of sit, sad to say, but scientists kind of sit in the low totem pole and are in a sense indentured slaves to like big companies, because like you think about professors, right? Like they are basically doing these research programs. They're also graduate students for free, cheap labor, right? Like we're not paying them. They are like the lowest rung, and then you have these entrepreneurs and or capitalists that come in and be like, hey, you just did the research on this. I found some benefit. I'm going to figure out how to make money from it. I'm going to take your research and make X amount, you know?
And I'll just give you a portion.
Sometimes it's not even a portion. It's like, I'll donate to your foundation, like just small amount.
Keep you going. So you keep doing research, but I'm not going to give you enough so you can do more research.
Scientists get screwed over.
I feel like that's where the problem is, because especially in colleges, like the professors, like they're really underpaid for, especially most of the ones that do like big time things. That's why when they don't care about their students, I understand, because they're not being paid enough to worry about what students are going through. That's why there's still the issue of dry material. They still keep giving the students like, oh yeah, the university wants you to do this, but they're not giving the students what they need to succeed.
Isn't it because like that is their part? It's like part-time job for them. It's like, I mainly care about my research, but I was told by the university I also have to teach you guys
in order to do my research. So, because one thing I figured out about universities are there are people that are professors out there, and they're really not professors to teach. They're professors for research. When they're put in the capacity to teach, they do a really bad job at it. Because I know I had this professor. I don't know if you remember this class, 303, ECE 303, taught by Diego Kraft.
Hold on, don't tell me. Is that the don't tell probability and statistics one? Oh my
class.
God.
Yeah, that was horrible, because I heard some people took the class for 3 years and always failed it, because the issue when I started taking the class, I figured out the issue wasn't the content. The issue was the professor, because he didn't really teach the material. He was always worried about his research, to the point where like he was on probation when I took the class. So he didn't care about what we did for like the knowledge. So all our exams were basically, oh yeah, I'm going to give you this review that you need to do before an exam. If you do this review, you're going to pass the class. And basically he allows cheat sheets. So if you print out the review, do the review and bring it to your exam, that's literally your exam. And I was like, okay, cool, but why aren't we learning the content in order to understand it? Because he was like, at this point, people are not getting it and I don't care. So he just like would come in. He wouldn't even explain the contents properly, even when you had questions. And I know there were a couple people in the class that, you know, the geniuses of the class, they would always like, argue with a professor.
Yeah.
And he was one professor that whenever people argued with, he'd be like, cool, yeah, let's move on forward. He would never try to like actually, if there is any situation with what they were talking about or there was anything wrong, he would not try to find answers. He would just let it slide because it was more work for him to deal with. To the point where, every student in the class knew what was going on. So everyone just had to bond together to pass the class and not to learn. Because I could tell you, I remember like 20% of what I learned in that class.
I don't remember 0%.
Yeah, and basically I don't need it in the rest of my life. But I have had professors in other classes that have done way better than he did. Where I came into the class and I was like, oh, I'm trying to pass this class. I ended up learning the content enough to the point where the class was I was able to pass the class easily. The example was the electromagnetics class that I took my junior year. It's like 342.
Is that with Notorious?
Yeah, with Notorious.
Notorious?
Yep. Even though like he was a weird professor because he was always about his research and never on campus. He was like
he was actually a good teacher.
He's a good teacher, but he was on campus like maybe 2 to 3 times and always traveling in other states.
Because he was like a world class like electromagnetics professor.
So he was
like his textbook was. He wrote like a 2,000-page textbook.
I still have that textbook. Yeah. It was expensive, so I bought it and I was like, this book is gonna go because I read the content and I understood it to the point where I was like, yeah, I actually benefited from this class. And then that's one thing he told us in the beginning of the class. If you really learn this content for what it is, passing would be the easiest of your problems. And I passed that class with an 8 and I couldn't believe it because people were struggling because they weren't learning the content. And it was at that moment that I realized that there are professors there to actually teach you the content and not worry about you passing because they don't do it automatically. And I just like fell in love with classes like that to the point where I have taken, I don't remember if you took any of George Collins's power system classes. He does like power systems.
Is he the Easy A kind of?
Yeah, the Easy A presentations, no exams.
Yeah, I did take a lot of his classes.
I took 4. So far I'm taking 2 now. I already took 2.
Are you still in school right now?
Yeah. So
are you doing your graduates?
Yeah. I'm actually graduating like this semester. I already took some grad program, classes because once I graduate with this, since I was a 5-year, now I'm moving on to like because I'm going to a base that hosts the Air Force Graduate School for Engineering. My process is to get into that to do my master's. So I already started taking some classes so I can be advanced in that. So once
George Collins classes are all graduates.
So once I get there, all that I'm gonna do is basically like tell them like, yo, since I'm already working on this base and the school is right here, activate me so I can start taking some grad programs, classes. So by the time they officially accept me into my degree program, I would be done with all the basic classes that I'm only working on, like my project thesis, and then being able to graduate with something tangible. So it's been on my mind since like junior year, and I was like, I'm going to make this work. And now everything is just coming, like it's aligning for me. It's like I just get the base, so I don't have to worry about the Air Force being like, yo, you're not at the base, so we have to transfer you after 2 years. So there's a delay. But now I'm going straight into it, and we'll be able to finish my master's within like less than 2 years, and then have more knowledge about what I want to do as an actual engineer, rather than put me wherever you need me, boss. Like I want to do whatever, but then now I can have a focus on what I want to like do. Because like being someone who doesn't have a lot of family members who like actually got a college degree, and having that as a first generation student, and then being like getting like literally I'm about to be the only engineer in my family. Like my uncle is like computer science and stuff, but I'm about to be an official engineer, and that like sometimes like freaks me out because I'm like, I thought I would have dropped engineering like literally my sophomore year and just become a bum in college and take whatever to graduate. And now I'm like, my passion in always trying hard is all coming together, and now I just see a future of doing more. And not just like, because the challenge is there and I know I'm going to fail, but why not do it? Because at this point, we might as well fail in order to succeed. So I just keep doing it until like something comes out of it. Because not trying and regretting it is much harder to deal with than trying and then having regrets about it, but then at least you have learned something out of it. So.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think now it's a perfect transition. I want to know your life story. Like, what is like, as you were saying, you alluded to, you were a first generation student, the first engineer in your family, and literally like, round of applause for that. Like, I feel like everyone, wherever you're listening to, they should be so proud to have heard and or listened to that story, and to kind of know that American dream is still alive, you know, and it's still there. Because I know sometimes, a lot of times I mean, this is my perspective on it, right? And from what I see, sometimes we like to dog on America for not being. I mean, there's obvious places where there needs to be more equality and or more push to that, but the fact that we were able to come out of this system, right? And my family came from Mexico, right? And like, I don't know, my cousin back in Mexico, she's also working on being an engineer, and her path has been way more excruciating. I like to say resources are limited, way more limited over there than they are here, right? And my whole experience here in the U.S. has been nothing but something for me to be grateful for, and like the opportunities that it has provided to me. I don't know if that's the same for you, but for sure it's something that I kind of have become proud to be an American in a sense, right? And there is a lot of things that we still got to work on to make America even better than it was before, right? But ideally, like what I have or what I was able to accomplish now, it was a hard road, but that hard road did teach me a lot of things and or made me who I am today. So yeah, I want to know kind of what your story is, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, we could, whichever that may be. So go ahead. I'll let you start.
So totally, I agree with you, because I came from like the same plan. My parents are immigrants. I was actually born in Ghana. That's where I was raised for like 10 years of my life before I moved to the U.S. And I came in and became a naturalized citizen, and I've been here living the dream. Because, you know, when you are in different parts of the world, especially when the United States as a whole like has the power to categorize other countries as third world countries, which I believe it shouldn't even be part of the plan of like, oh yeah, we are first world countries and you're third world countries, because we're all the same people. It's just that resources and accessibility to like things that we need to like survive are limited. So like for me, like coming here, it was more of like the education and living the American life. And I came in having immigrant parents who were like, who had to like work like multiple jobs. I remember throughout high school, like I never really saw my mom because she was gone for the day for her work.
What did she do?
She's a what do we call it? She's a CNA. So
certified nurse assistant.
Yeah, certified nurse assistant. So basically, she started that like when she got to the U.S. and basically she was working in the day as a CNA, and then in the night she would be taking care of like other people, like a contractor job where she would go into homes in order to take care of the elderly. And basically, like only times I saw it were like after we would come back from school, like she would come back from her day job, come home, eat, sleep for like 30 minutes, and then head on to her night job. So I didn't really see her a lot in like when I was like growing up in high school and all that. And then having to like see the pain of what she was doing in order to take care of myself and my two siblings, it was like, okay, cool, I gotta make something out of my life. And that's when I figured out that I gotta struggle in order to make it. That's what I like mentally, that's what I thought, because they were struggling in order to make it. So what can I do? I have to fail at all costs, because like people would tell you give up. But then what I had in mind was like, even if they tell you to give up, keep going. Because I started with the process of like, I want to do something with my life. I wanted to go to college. I want to do all these kinds of things. And then I started seeing all of them come like together. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's keep pushing the limit. So I came into college and I was like the first year. My sister went before me because she was like 2 years ahead of me. So she went to college. Even though she might have struggled with college, because college, you know, people struggle in degree programs that they're taking and, struggling to pass classes, because most of her advisors would tell her like, I don't think you should do this, because she was majoring in neuroscience. And they were like, yo, we don't think you're going to make it. And in telling like a black woman you can't make it in a program was like limiting her in that aspect of she's trying to make something out of her life. And it might have taken her 5.5 years to finish college, but she finished. And when she finished, that I was like, applause to her. I was like, okay, cool. You did it now. And guess what? That advisor that had like commented you can't do neuroscience messaged her and apologized and was like, I apologize for limiting you for like what I didn't know you could accomplish. And guess what? She finished with 2 degrees, neuroscience and psychology. And right now she's like studying the MCAT, trying to like get into medical school and do something with her life. And it's all the limitations that we see in life coming from people who don't understand the struggle that we had to break through in order to get where we are. And then for me, example, like everyone thought like, oh yeah, he can do it. But most people didn't believe that I was capable of being an engineer. Because they were like, yeah, this dude looks like he's incapable of like doing all the assignments because he's always asking questions and, you know, it looks like he's always lost. But those were all aspects of me trying to build that kind of challenge myself in all aspects. Even if I knew the material, you know, why not ask? Because asking is not a crime. And in bettering myself through that aspect. So I went through this program when the university and the College of Engineering, even most of the professors didn't think I was capable of doing. Because, you know, you always sit in the back and they look at you and they always pay attention to a certain amount of people. Because, you know, College of Engineering is predominantly white male. So it's like they most of them come from like schools and families where they had all the resources in order to succeed. So most professors look towards them and say, yeah, this person has potential to succeed. Compared to us, where we come in, we had no idea what engineering is or whatever degree we're doing, but we aspire to accomplish it. And then later on, they just look at us and they're like, yo, you are brilliant for being a black guy. And I'm like, what is the difference between being any race and then just being smart and having wisdom to do something that you really want? And this journey has been like, it's been like where it's just been a lot of emotions going on, because going through college, having to figure out how to pay for college. Because let me tell you, in high school, I graduated with like a 3.98. Like, I was like good. Like my standardized test scores weren't the best, but it still got me into several colleges. But then the fact that no one acknowledged my potential and even wanted to like help me with scholarships, because I applied for over 100 scholarships. Most of them I advanced, but you were advanced and they never tell you anything. It's like they just tell you, oh, you're advanced to this section of it, we're gonna do more interviews, and then it just goes dead silent. So I came into college not having even a penny being paid. And then I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Because now my mom is struggling. She's helping my sister as well. And how am I going to do this? So I figured out avenues. I was like, I got to keep figuring out how to make this. And that's when I figured out about the Air Force like scholarship. And I had already like been in the ROTC program. So I excelled, even though when we came in, it was predominantly white male. Like even like white females, there weren't a lot of them. And then my class year, when we came in with a set of like, there were about a total of 6 of us who were people of color, like black, Mexican, like Asian, all that. We were like, that was it, 6 of us in a program where there are like almost 200 and something people. And there was like the notion of these people can't make it because they don't know what it takes to get to that level. So I struggled. They were like, yeah, you're not going to get a scholarship. That's what they told me in like my first semester. Like, you got to really try in order to get a scholarship. And then to come to understand that, like in the summer after my freshman year, I just get a random call from one of our captains. And she's like, yeah, you just got a scholarship. And I was like, what? Hold on. Are you kidding me? And she was like, yeah, they said you couldn't, but I made sure. And that captain was a black captain. Like, she called me and she said like, yo, they said you couldn't, but I made sure I could find ways to get you in. And then they gave me a scholarship, and ever since
shout out to her.
Oh yeah, shout out to her. Like, yeah, every single time like I think about my journey, I think about her. And then I'm like, after like I go active duty, I'm just gonna figure out what base she is and then just surprise her out of nowhere and just be like, it's because of you that like I was able to succeed and come to this level. Because like since then, like they paid for my college, they paid for everything that I didn't have to even bother my mom about, because Even during the summers, they gave even during every month they gave me stipends to keep me afloat. And even with that, like even though it wasn't enough, I still made sure to take on a job because I started working on campus like freshman year, second semester, in order to like take care of myself because you can't always depend on your immigrant mother because she was a single mother who's trying to take care of 3 kids all by herself. So I had the notion that I can never ask my mom for money because I don't believe that she needs to give me money in order for me to like do what I'm doing. All I thought about was she just needs to make money and take care of the house and the rest of my siblings, but I'm just gonna come out as the male figure, not to like want anything from her. So later on, like there were some days where I was like broke college student. I didn't have money and I had to eat because I was like, yeah, the dorm food is not working. I gotta eat something. So I'd call her and I'd feel embarrassed, like asking my mom for like $20.
Yeah.
Like I'd be like, yo, can you send me like $20? I'll pay you back. And then my mom would be like, yeah, sure. Like, and she was all about like, you should tell me if you need anything. But I just didn't want to ask her for anything because I knew the struggle she was already going through. So after like all my situations and issues were covered by scholarship and having like money coming in and working in college, that's when I realized that, yeah, I got to make it for myself to the point where when I got internships and because like I got internships in the defense sector, they were paying me really good where I was like getting enough money to take care of myself and even like help my sister pay for her tuition because like out of her like 5.5 years of being in college, she only got funding from financial aid to be able to pay for 4. And after that, like I would sometimes like make money out of like working and then you make a lot of money and then I'll not spend any of that, not even to take care of myself or just do lavish stuff. I'll just keep it because I'm like, what if there's an emergency and anyone in my family needs money, I'll be able to like help them. So that was the notion I had. And later on, like my sister was like, yo, I'm struggling, I don't want to take any more loans I have already. And I'd be like, yeah, I made like $8,000 this summer, like I haven't touched any of it. Is that enough for you to cover your tuition? And she would be like, yeah, that's more than enough. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. Take the money, pay me back whenever you can. And then she would be like, yo, thank you, because I really appreciate it. And I did that consistently for 3 semesters where I would work my summer, keep all the money I'd make, and then give it to her. And then basically, like, today we laugh about it all the time when I talk about how like I had to like I would have been like really super rich if I had just kept all the money I used to pay her tuition. And basically she's like, yeah, she's really grateful for it because I look back and I'm like, what if I didn't have the mindset to take care of my family and I just wanted to live my life and just ignore them? My family wouldn't be my family because they would still continue to struggle. And I look back at all that I've accomplished, like being a black person. And the interesting thing is out of the ROTC program at CSU, I am the first black person to gain an electrical engineering degree in about 7 years. No one, not even a white person or any other person of color, has been able to gain an electrical degree in the detachment for the Air Force. So being able to like gain that in the university is like a step up, and then being able to do it, knowing all the struggles that I had around me, was like something that I look back to, and I'm like, there were struggles, and I overcame them. Because at this point, I look at the countdown to when I become an officer, and I look back at like all the people that told me I couldn't do it and I was gonna drop out of the program and keep struggling, and I'm like, yeah, I made it, and now this is the time to empower other people. That there might be issues going around, but there are gonna be people around that can support you. Because I joined NSBE, which is the National Society of Black Engineers. And I believe that historically there are a lot less black engineers in the country, but we have the most impact in terms of science. Because when you go historically, like when we talk about Katherine Johnson being able to do like the calculations for NASA to put a man on the moon, like all those things, and then talking about the different inventions that we see today that historically no one talks about who created it, but you get to find out that there are these like amazing people of color and especially black people who made these happen back in the day. those are all inspiration to me because they made it happen when their situation back then was even worse because you're going through slavery and coming out of slavery and then even having to figure out that there's civil rights movements going on, but they still persevered and did their job to help a country that didn't really take care of them. But then they still have the notion to keep taking care of people up to today. I felt like after finishing college and everything, I need to make sure I am still in the group where I can still take care of other people like me, people of color in general, and just be like, they will tell you can't do it, but I'll be a resource for you. Like whatever I have to do as a person in order to make sure they live a good life and figure out the college environment, or even if they don't want to go to college but find a job, I'll be able to do that for them because no one had it for me. So why not be the representation I wanted to see when I was like going through my program? So.
Yeah, man, you are a very selfless person. I guess altruistic in all aspects of your life. You sacrificed because you also saw that other people have sacrificed for you, you know, your family, your mom. I know I also was raised with a single mother, and for me, and I think the same thing you're doing is you almost want to take yourself out of the equation completely in order to help, right? In order for you to provide any help, maybe you can't pay the rent, but the way you can help is by just removing yourself and or one less mouth to have to feed, right, for your mom to have that comfort. And it says a lot about you, and it's so shitty that that's the obstacles and the hurdles that you have to overcome to get to where you want to be, right, or to accomplish your goals in life. That shouldn't be the case, you know, because just like as you were saying, there's a lot of people, and I don't like when it comes to like socioeconomic status, right? The people that are in the lower sector are majority Black, Latino, and I guess there's some Asian Americans or for sure Asian Americans in there. So very much the minority people of color are in the lower socioeconomic brackets. And earlier, in a sense, we are very fortunate cases, right, of success cases that we're able to make it out. And it shouldn't have to be that lucky and or that hard. Like you shouldn't have to work double jobs. Your mom shouldn't have to work double jobs to be able to put her children through an education system. Those children want to succeed and be providers and or add benefit to society, right? The fact that there's so many hurdles, and the fact that like even right now your sister had to take out even more loans, get into more debt just to accomplish her dream, and that dream is something that would provide absolute benefit to everyone in society, not just even her, right? The fact that that is such a hard path now to get to compared to other avenues in life. I just think that education should be something that should be, if you want to pursue it and there's passion in there and you are getting the grades and doing the right things, you shouldn't have to basically give up your whole life and work all these dead-end jobs just to get through it, right? And I think that's something where there can be a lot of change that can be made in society, in America, that we can do to make this better for people like us, right? Because it shouldn't have to be that hard. You know, there's, I guess, just to put some blame, or maybe these are the group of people that just kind of, to us, seem to have it very easy, or like the white males, right? In college, some of them are just going and doing fratty things and partying, and like they don't understand like what's that education, maybe like the amount of I guess it's also kind of naive, you know, but like statistically looking at things, right, there's a lot of white males and also white majority or Caucasian people in college, right? So that kind of for me says like, okay, their family was able to provide some resources to get there. And it's, I don't want to generalize because of course there's other cases where even in this lower socioeconomic bracket there is white people in there that are also struggling. That's why sometimes putting a race on top of things is kind of like counterproductive. How about we just help anyone that's struggling, right? But what I'm seeing is like sometimes it's like taken for granted, or at least that's how I see it. It's taken for granted, where people just don't really care about the price that it takes to pay to get to the school, right, and to get through those, get scholarships and do these things and work so hard to just be an engineer, to now also just get paid. I mean, you get paid well money, but the thing is, like, there's so many systems and so many other positions out in the world right now that get paid even more, and engineers are almost being undervalued. And I was listening to this podcast not too long ago where they released a study purposely to bring the value down of engineers. And what they did was say that there was a low supply of engineers, so they would produce a lot more engineers. And with more engineers, you don't have to pay as much. High supply, low demand, or high demand, but if you meet it with a high supply, you also now kind of even things out. Price of an engineer goes down, right? So now the price of engineering is going down, and not a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to that job if it's not going to pay me that much, and it's really hard to get into, right? So there's like so many of those things that play into society, into America. And earlier in the podcast, I was like, yeah, I mean, we did it, you know, and like we can make it, everyone else can make it. And that's the naiveness and sometimes me wanting to buy too quickly into the American dream. The fact that it was possible makes the American dream feasible. It still keeps it alive. Yeah. But the thing is, it's slowly dying because people are starting to understand I have to work 2 jobs. You know, I have to work at the kitchen at CSU and also be an RA. I have to go to work. For school, I have to go to school, get good grades. Now I'm also doing ROTC just to get this degree where I'm already deep in debt, and all these things come into fact. And you're like, well, do I even want to go to school now? Like, should I just do something else? And that's kind of what the internet, and now there's a lot of more people gravitating to like entrepreneurship in a sense, because they're starting to see that the cost of school and education isn't worth the benefits at the end, right? Definitely. They're like, well, I'm going to bust my ass and do all these things, or I could go and sell X widget for X price, make a profit, sell a bunch of them, next thing you know, have my own business, this, and that, right? So in a sense, like, engineers are even more becoming a dying breed because they're making it so difficult. School, or the cost of higher education, is only going up and up. The value's been the same for centuries. I don't think I've ever gone anything's dramatically has changed, but the price continues to go up. People continue to go into debt, and it's very sad that that's how the system is set up. And apart from that, there's also a lot of systematic things that are in place that prevent people in the lower socioeconomic bracket, being Black, Latino backgrounds, like schools, right? Like, there's a lot of school, or like your neighborhood determines how much money goes into the school, right? Yeah. And if you're in a shitty neighborhood that was previously set up through redlining, right, which was like the process of being like, hey, Black people, people of color going in this group, white, suburbia, happy people or whatever are going to go into this. And these red lines, even though they're now removed and you can go live in a sense wherever you want, still kind of exist in a ghost sense now. Like, you have these communities like Green Valley Ranch, or Highlands Ranch, right? I don't know the history of Highlands Ranch, but let's use Highlands Ranch as an example, right? I want to say majority of that is white people that live there. A lot of them are high income winners, and you're in the higher middle to higher class socioeconomic ladder when it comes to Colorado. So this Highlands Ranch region, right? And people there, like, their taxes, they're making way more money, so their government's collecting way more taxes. More taxes goes into those schools, so those schools now have more resources with technology, books, scholarship opportunities, resources for people to be like, hey, you know what? They even have people, I think, that they hire to get people scholarships. They're like, okay, I'm going to tell you which scholarships you should apply for. I'm going to tweak your essay. You're going to get it, right? Compared to, like, where I grew up, where maybe you grew up, right? The schools are being funded by people who are working 2 jobs, 2 minimum wage jobs. Some people aren't even paying taxes because they are either working under the table or doing some other shit.
They still tax them because when they file the taxes, they're still taking money out of them. And like, you see how much income this person is making, but you say, oh, because they're being paid out on the table, you're going to take more money out of them than you take out of the people that actually do these high-end jobs. It's just a messed up system because, like, I think about everything else and I'm like, shouldn't we be a country that's helping the people that are suffering.
Yes.
And then like I'm like, if I was a billionaire, I'd be the most selfless like billionaire ever. Because like, what am I doing with all that money? Like once I die, I'm not gonna take all that money, but what kind of impact can I like make, or can I put on people right now? Because like the people struggling, and sometimes like something you are making in an hour can be enough to set someone up for years.
Yeah.
And then it's like you think about it, and they're like all in the race to be who is the richest person. Because especially like during this pandemic era, like all these people are like in the race of, I want to be a billionaire. I want to be in the top of like, I'm the richest person in the world. But I'm like, okay, what are you doing in order to take care of the people around you, or assist even the little, because they all talk about, oh, we have this foundation doing this, we're giving these items to these schools, but then it's like,
the sad truth to that, some of those are just their tax exemptions. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna do a charity because I need a
tax exemption,
just get rid of some cash. You know, it's tragic, and it is one of those things where people just want to get richer, and it's a mindset that we have. I guess it's becoming a global thing, right? And I guess I don't want to generalize that everyone in the world wants to just get rich and not give back. But it's a trend where, in a sense, your life gets better. You upgrade, or you start getting paid more. You upgrade your life. You get a bigger house. You get a boat. You get certain things, right? And it's one of those sad truths that we, as much as we like to think that we are charitable and selfless, we really aren't. And I mean, I'll speak for myself, and from your perspective, or from what I've heard from you, like I would almost say the opposite. Like you're very much selfless. You're very, very much. I don't. If the cash can be better used, or if my resources can be better used in a different person's bucket, then let's go ahead and use them there. So I think that's something that we can all learn to do, and it's become like a common theme in like my podcast, like or a topic that gets reached of like how to give money, when to give money, and like being charitable and giving back. And it's it just kind of goes, or as you were saying, I want to revisit the whole, like we as America or as a community, right? You want to help the people who are struggling the most.
Yeah.
Whether it's Black people, Latinos, Asians, whatever identity that may be, let's just help the people who are struggling the most at the moment, right? And that's where I think all of our America's resources should go to, right? Whether it's the homeless too, right? That's also a big problem, right? The people who are struggling the most is where, as a community, you should strive to fix, because it goes back to that old analogy of you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? And as a community, you're only as strong as your weakest members and or member in that community. And it goes back to like, let's just try to spread this wealth, or reforms for like education. There's also like reforms for drugs, and like the amount of like people in jail right now for like marijuana cases right now, like there's like dispensaries all over my community, right? There's people in jail in America right now that are basically doing life terms over something that there's a business right next door to my house.
They need to like just like, you know, go through the prison system, and all those like nonviolent like people who are in prisons for like for like petty stuff like marijuana and drugs that are already legalized. Like those people, they all need to be valued, because like the thing that drives me crazy is majority of them are people of color that were put in there because they had a possession of like, oh, this small amount of weed or something.
And usually it's those communities that are struggling the most, that have the most police enforcement. And I mean, you almost think about it, and like those communities at one point have to resort to like selling drugs or criminal activities, because there isn't resources in their communities to propel them to be plumbers, or there isn't an industrial school next door. They could be like, oh, I'm gonna become an electrician, or these things, right?
They make it hard for them.
Yeah, school already, like no one's gonna like, schools aren't being funded, so everyone is like creating more like negative friendships, or like, hey, let's say we were friends in school, and I was like, hey, my cousin's actually got a lot of drugs, he's making a lot of money, you see that car, that's a nice car, huh? The way he's making that, the way he gets to drive that car is by doing drug or like selling drugs and whatnot, right? So like it becomes a cyclical thing, and then you take parents away from their children because now my dad is like, let's say, selling drugs. He gets caught up now, single mom situation, even harder. Now it's just a compounding effect, right? And there's a lot of these, again, systematic things in place that are affecting the fact that there isn't more black, brown students in the engineering programs, right? There should almost be an equal I would almost see like whatever the blend is in America, right, as a whole, I would almost want to see that same blend in the like in my engineering programs, right?
Yeah.
Because it should just trickle out kind of the same way, like the same probability. We're all humans in a sense. We all have the same capabilities, but certain resources or it's a lot harder for certain people to come out of where they started, and for us it was a lot harder. And in a sense, like, I don't want to discredit all the hard work that we put into it, but in a sense we were lucky cases, right? That we didn't get entangled with the wrong people growing up. We didn't we had great role models being our mothers. At least for me, my mom was a great role model through hard work and kind of her preaching education to me, right? And we are lucky cases, lucky statistics that we were able to make it, right? And it shouldn't be a luck thing. It shouldn't be one of those things. It should almost be like, hey, if you want to aspire to be an engineer, we want more engineers in life. Let's go ahead and do that. Let me take a pause. I guess for sure better than the one I grew up with.
Yeah.
For sure an upgrade. That's kind of how I see a lot of the times is like, I just wanted to be better than how I started, and I think I've already accomplished that. That's
You're already doing it, because I know you're doing like 2 jobs or something like that.
Yeah, in a sense, at one point I was doing 2 jobs, but or like a good job, and then I guess a part-time job. But let's go ahead and get started. So clap it up. Apart from that, but we were talking about, I guess, these systems that are invisible in a sense and do prevent us from reaching our full potential, or not us, but Americans and people who probably deserve it the most, or not deserve, but want to get out, want to explore different things, want to be an engineer, but just the way that the initial cards were handed, it makes it really tough. So hopefully with generations and with time, that's my prediction, is with patience and good people like us coming into this world and seeing these issues and making these changes, or changing the way we think and getting rid of old thinking and government, right? Because that's a lot of or just I almost like to think about it not in a large scale, but in a micro sense, right? Like if you have a community and you have a community leader at that point, let's consider him the president of the community, right? But if he has like old thoughts, doesn't think about other people's, or I guess just has old school ways of thinking, right? It's not until new blood and new people start to go into those positions that things start to change. And I think we're starting to see, or we've, I guess, in 200 years, we've already seen massive change occur, like I want to say 100 years ago, or like, what was it, 1969, when like a lot of the like Jim Crow laws really started to like be removed. So that's like 50 years ago. Like that's not.
Technically,
that's
they were
not,
they said they were removing it, but then they were categorizing them in different aspects of like how to make sure they still keep people under the system without like letting them know, this is exactly what we're doing. And
it's crazy too. It's just like they were so, and by they I mean like white leaders in position of power were so like power. I don't even know what type of person it is to do this, but they were like, if you're black or Latino, you can't like even have like a relationship with a white woman, or if you're a white guy, you can't have a relationship with a black or Latino woman or Latina woman, right? And it's just that right there is just like, and that was like 50 years ago. Like that's in someone's lifetime they've experienced that, and in certain people, those lifetimes are now in positions of power, and it's just kind of crazy to think that those people are in power that grew up in that. Maybe they use that as a positive of like, hey, like I can see that this is gonna or you see that as a good perspective of like, hey, you know what? I saw that negative thing happen in my lifetime. I want it to be different. Or they could have easily been a part of the group that were like wanting to push that, right? But my hope and my optimism as a human is that is not the case. That the current case is that we are moving towards a more progressive and compassionate way of life. And I think it kind of starts with like us having our conversations, you continuing to spread your perspective with other people, because a lot of people sometimes don't know that perspective. And I don't want to say it's our responsibility to educate them, but I think it's worthwhile trying to expose other people to our perspective, our cultures, and not just being... because if someone doesn't know something, like there's no way they can help or have any sympathy for it. So I think there's a certain case, but I think us being good people, continuing to be good people in the world, raising good children, if you do choose to have children, that is super impactful. And any interactions you have, continue having to have that positive aspect to life that you have and or you provide. And I guess we could wrap it back to kind of you being an RA. I think it goes back to that, like there's a lot that was a very unique ground to be in as an RA, because as an RA you are in a sense not a freshman, so you're either a sophomore, junior, or senior in college, and you are basically fostering and or taking care of
other like freshmen, sometimes even older than you are.
Yeah, and these are like complete strangers. They all come from a lot of different backgrounds.
Oh yeah, definitely.
A lot of different backgrounds, and how the way that I kind of saw it, right, is like just being human with them and making yourself one of them, like a peer, was more progressive than trying to have like an authoritative outlook to it, because I saw two flavors of how people executed their job. One was like with an iron fist of like, hey, you got to follow my rules. If you're not following my rules, then I'm going to do whatever I can to get you in trouble and to punish you in a sense, right? Where I think the way you approached it and I approached it very similarly is you made the position a human position. You humanized it. You showed your persona, you led through example in a sense, and kind of through creating a long-lasting relationship, not just by being superficial with people, right? And it kind of, as you gave that example earlier today, you let people into your own space, your own house in a sense, right? You let them stay, sleep in your couch, whatever. You talk to them, you made yourself available to them, and I think that's something that is of value and something that everyone should try to foster within their lives, is trying to understand and just listening to people, being compassionate for one another, and showing that you are a great person, And I think you said everyone came out of that experience with like, hey, Kojo was awesome. Like, I'm glad I got to meet him. Every time I see him, I want to go and talk to him and interact with him, right? And I think that's the bare minimum that we should all try to aspire to do, the bare minimum, just do that. Yeah. If any, I don't want to ask anything else of anyone else in the world. Just do the bare minimum. Just try to understand another person. They could have completely different views than you. I mean, even if we were to have a racist person here in the table with us, right? Instead of trying to attack that person's views, even though for you and the way you think, it's completely wrong.
Yep.
But in a way, if you come at that person in an attacking manner, like, hey, you fucking asshole, like you are a racist, bigot, asshole, whatever words you want to say, right? And you're attacking this person's only going to want to attack you more, right?
Nothing is going to be done.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be the loophole of like the consistent issues that we have. And I believe that's the reason why like they're supposed to be we are supposed to be the people, like, even though they might not want to be like us and try to be understanding and then try to listen, we got to listen to them and then let them know that these are your perspectives and all these, but have you considered these aspects? Like, tell them about the aspects that they're not seeing, because usually people like that, they only see into like through one viewpoint. They never see the entire view. So it's like letting them know about those, and at least if you do your job of like bringing the whole scope out and then being human as possible to them, then they just start to realize that they're actually douchebags. Because if anyone in this world, you're just like being the meanest mug to anyone, and they continue to be at peace with you and continue to be the best person that has ever been around you, then you know the problem is not with the world or the people that you want to attack, but with you as a person yourself. Because most people like that, they don't like themselves. So they just put all the hate and everything that comes with that towards other people. So just being understanding and letting them know the situation that they're in sometimes lets them understand that things have changed. Because all these people that we have in power, they still go by the same ideology that they used to rule the world like 50, 100 years ago. And they haven't changed that perspective. And I feel like as time keeps going on, these need to be adopted. Like, they need to totally change everything, because we're not the same people we were like years ago. And we shouldn't be treating the same. It's exactly like the education system. Like, kids have evolved. They know more than they used to know like years ago. And I feel like we shouldn't just keep the same thing, because I've been seeing this trend of like people just show pictures of like, this was what this was like school was 100 years ago, and this is what school is like in the present, no difference. And then they say, okay, this is how people were back then. And then now look, we have diverse amount of people with different knowledge and cultures, but then there are certain people that still refuse to like, understand and take people in, because there is this notion of you have a different culture, you have a different color, you have a different ideology, so I don't like you. Whereas like we need to like unite this all based on the fact that we're humans.
Yeah, kind of focus more on the our commonalities, which is very important. And the more we try to find ways to separate ourselves, the more we do separate ourselves and get ourselves not in the same wavelength type of thing. I want to hit you with some rapid fire questions now.
All right, cool. Go ahead.
And then we'll see where we go from there. I guess for one, to start off, I guess what is like your routine, your wake up to sleep routine? What does that look like?
It pretty much depends on the week and then what's going on, but the routine is usually to wake up in the morning.
What time?
For majority of it, it's usually like 5. So 5 a.m. in the morning, and then like, hit the gym or go get my workout done, and then come back, eat something, and usually like take a quick nap. And then depending on like if I have classes or I have anything going on in the morning, like tackle those. And then tackle it until like towards the evening, and in the evening like, wrap up things or refocus on like what events that I conquered during the day. Get another workout in, and then after that workout, just relax, because like I'm like more of like a self-care time. That's where you just like take a couple minutes, like read something or just like watch something, just to like keep your mind off the day that you just had. And then from there you just like move on to like because like I always plan my weeks in advance. So like let's say I'm about to have this week, everything is going to be planned like the weekend, and then I'm going to be like, okay, cool, I have these due, I have this to tackle, all right, let's set these dates and let's make sure to stick to them. But if it doesn't work as planned, don't freak out. Life is not always like perfect. Figure out a way to like work around it. If it's not workable, leave it. Do what needs to be done in order until you have enough time to come back to what you missed, because you don't want to throw off your entire day or your entire life because something was messed up, and then now you have to like refocus everything based on just that one thing, when we know that every day you go through something different. So you shouldn't always keep your mind on like, I had to do this assignment and I didn't do it, so now my entire day has to be revolved around that assignment that I messed up with. Finish the rest of your activities during the day, and then come back to it, because you might have more focus, or you might have more like a perfect idea of how to tackle that later on than just trying to focus in there when it's not working.
Mm-hmm. And that's, you try to, do you have an agenda, like do you like to write down your agenda?
I actually put all my agenda, it's all technology. Everything
in the
is
phone?
so, yeah, my phone, my laptop, it's all synced together. So it's like alert everywhere. So it's like there's no way to miss it.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna literally, phone is gonna tell you got this coming up in like 30 minutes. Now it's gonna tell you got it in 5 minutes, and then it's like you don't have your phone, computer. You're working on something on your computer, and your computer pops it up. Like you need to pay attention. So it's like you gotta check it off for it to vanish. If you don't check it off, it's still there, and now it's hunting you. Mm-hmm. So that's like pretty much how I do it. Because what if I had a book? Because I believe like some people like journals because they like to write it down. For me, what if I don't have the journal in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
How am I going to know what's going on, and I'm going to miss stuff? So with technology, I have it. Like no matter what's going on, I have it all around me. It's going to let me know. Unless like I'm in a place where I can't have technology, then I have to resort to like the traditional way of things.
Okay. Yeah, and as far as your workouts, you do 2 workouts a day, kind of, it seems like?
So majority of it, most of my days of, so I work out like pretty much like 5 to 6 times a week. And then every one of those, I have a morning workout and have an evening workout before I go to bed. Because I believe in just like, not exhausting yourself with like, I'm going to do like a 2-hour workout in the morning. I stick to like, okay, I'm going to do an hour workout, and I stick to that routine where I hit all the different sets that I need to hit in terms of what part I'm working on.
And you do bodybuilding?
Yeah, I do lifting. So basically I lift weights because I feel like that's my way of like working out and getting the most out of it. And it's kind of interesting because I believe that you only get something out of your workout when you're struggling with it. So that's when like I hit it, and then the evening time, that's where like I'm like, all right, we struggled. Now let's see where we can fix other things that need to be fixed. Like, okay, I struggled in the morning doing something that's bringing something out of me. Now in the evening, let's try to like even it out by doing some stretching or by doing some like, light lifting in order to like even everything out, because you just don't want to have a day where you just messed up in the morning, you go to bed, wake up in the morning and start the same routine over. So just fix those before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned something that Muhammad Ali, I think, lived by, which was like he doesn't count his sit-ups. He only starts counting when like it's painful type of thing, right? So you're saying that in the morning you do bodylifting, bench press, squat, deadlift, press, whatever it may be, right? You do that to an exhaustion point for an hour. And then your second workout is more of a stretch, recovery, lighter load workout, and you do that 5 to 6 times a week.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I tend to like sometimes like one thing I'm trying to gauge at is like my recovery, right? Because I know in college I was like basically work out 5 days a week, like 2-hour workouts per day. And try to lift heavy every time or whatever, right? And didn't really give myself too much time to recover. But I'm trying to experiment with that and like trying to see different recovery cycles and whatnot. Also, like my mentality is now not necessarily with lifting heavy weights anymore or like trying to beat those type of records, but more of trying to stay healthy and keeping a physique that I want and or that I like. Exactly. I think that's kind of where my journey has now led me to. I've gone through the heavy lifting route, trying to lift as heavy as I can and doing record lifts or personal record lifts, but now I've switched over to a different one. But I also think that a lot of it comes down to your diet, So is there anything, any tips, anything that is of value, do you think, of your diet that like would benefit me? I mean, if it benefits everyone else, cool, but I don't really care about everyone else at this point. It's more about what I can take out of your life that I know I can implement into my life. Is there some secret that you have?
Yeah, so for me, like, how most people who start with like lifting weights and all that, they're all into like those supplements and protein and
creatine, protein,
like,
pre-workouts,
all those things. Like for me, I didn't start with that. Like I started with like, eating healthy. Like I didn't even count my calories back then. It was more about trying to figure out like what works for my body, making sure I'm healthy, eating like the certain amount of meals. And then later on, I moved towards the goal of like I gotta eat healthy. So meal prepping my own food and then making sure I have like all the different minerals that I need to get out of my food, because like every single day you need to get a certain amount of like minerals into your system, so you make sure you hit all those targets, so you're not just like all about just the protein. So I meal prep over the weekends for myself, where I make like usually my specialty that I make is like this spaghetti. So basically spaghetti with some veggies, and then basically what I usually do is some shrimp and then some eggs, so I can balance it out. And then that's usually like I when I do it, it's like really low fat, and then it's like super good, because
even like, the do you have a special spaghetti, or is it just generic?
No, just the general spaghetti, but the way that I do it, I just do it differently, in order to like make sure I'm not just like sticky, because I want it to be easy, where like if someone were to like be like to come to my house and be like, yo, I'm hungry, they can easily eat it and not have it like mess up their system or anything, but it will still like add nutrients to their body. So then with that, then I make sure like I'm drinking enough water throughout the day. And I stopped drinking like like the Pepsi and all those
soda,
like,
sugar
stuff.
Sugar waters.
Yeah, I went towards like more of like drinking Gatorade and stuff just for the energy boost. And I used to do pre-workout, and then I was like just not liking it, so I stopped pre-workout and went back to plant-based protein, and it was working out for a hot minute until like I was like, yeah, it my system doesn't feel right with it. So I later on switched to like I'm just gonna have my foods heavy in protein rather than the other minerals, and I do that, and then I eat like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I make sure to like put some stuff like in between, like when like snacks. And so far, what that I've been doing is shakes. So I've been doing like fruit slash. I don't do the veggie shakes. I do like mainly fruits, where I have like peanut butter, strawberries, bananas with 2% milk. Like, and then I switch it up. Sometimes like there's no peanut butter, but there's other fruits added onto that, so I can just drink it after my workout just to get my system working. And because like you gotta detox your system, because a lot of things that you eat as anyone that works out, it clogs up your system. So you have to make sure you drink something that's gonna cleanse your entire system, so you're ready for any other foods that you eat as time goes on.
Interesting. Yeah, so you kind of tried supplements or protein powders in a sense, and were like, hey, I kind of want to just get it from the source naturally. So you kind of replaced it with shrimp, chicken. And then made sure to get your grains through spaghetti and whatnot, and try to structure it. And I think that's at points when it comes to people's journeys, whether it's a weight loss or a weight gain journey. I think that's the hardest part of the journey, is eating and or sustaining a diet. At least from my experience, right? Most of the time when it comes to losing weight, it's because I can't control my cravings, right? And I'm like, oh man, I'm really craving a snack. Okay, I'm gonna go eat a snack, right? But I think a lot of that, when it comes to losing weight, is just controlling your cravings and controlling your portions. And it seems like you're doing a lot of calories, and which tells me that you're also working out. Your workouts are pretty either intense or enough to counterbalance the amount of food that you're consuming, and to keep up with the physique that you have. Because I think it's key to mention that you do have a pretty lean physique to you.
Yeah, because I don't actually believe in the bulky physique. I believe in the lean but fit, because like I just want to like have a lifestyle where it's like it's easy for me to do everything. I'm not really flexible. That's one bad thing about me, but I still like maintain, because like for me, like having this kind of physique where it's not too big or it's not too small is enough for me, because it looks good healthy wise, and it also like it doesn't like, as most people go all the way out to bodybuilding where they're doing way too much than they're supposed to do. And then one of my dreams is to grow old having this kind of physique. without having to like,
Likewise.
yeah. So like as like just like how I am, maintain that kind of physique where it's like a lean physique but ripped kind of physique where you have no words.
You should have more skin.
Yeah, because once you get old and you have like that large physique, all of that starts to
like some permanent kind of thing.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, now you're having health effects, you're having body effects because you were doing this, now you're not doing that anymore because you've gone older. So it's like, okay, how are you going to balance your life out? Because most of the body lifters and like, you know, people that I follow on like the socials to see how their journey is, like Ronnie Coleman, like I see him now and I'm like, yeah, he had a good physique. Now he's like, you know, had multiple surgeries and all that because he used to do it too much.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to get back that. And then I think there's this black-bodied lifter, I forgot his name, but he is in his like literally 60s. And he still has a physique of like a young teenager because he didn't do it too excessively. He did it in the way that it still looks good on him. So like most people see him and they're like, yo, how old is he? Like, is he like in his like 40s or 30s? And they find out he's in his 60s, but still has like a physique where it's like the skin doesn't have any issues and it's like muscle mass is all good, no ripped out veins and stuff like that going on because you get old and everything just comes smaller.
Hell yeah. So let's commit to staying in shape. I think everyone should try to do that regardless of who you are. All right. So what is something you wish you could learn how to do right now? And or are learning to do?
I think one thing I'm learning to do is more creative thinking, utilizing the knowledge that I have as an electrical engineering and building stuff myself. So you know how you can build all kinds of things on your own and they're expensive. So I looked into 3D printing. That's one thing I've been doing for the past like couple months and just trying to make everything that you want. Like let's say for example, I want like a robot. Figure out avenues to design, create, and 3D print the entire thing where I don't have to spend enough money on any of the other accessories except for like wiring and getting that to work. And also like in the house, like I automated my mom's house for her. So basically the lights, changing the lights and everything else and making it into a smart home, more like affordable. So it's like, okay, you don't have to worry about those kinds of things. Like, I just love the idea of building things, making things simpler. Because this past summer, like in our garage, like, you know how they usually just put shelves in there. And I was like, this is bulky. I had no idea how to, like, you know, put up a shelf, wooden shelf. I went to Home Depot, bought all the stuff I needed, watched some YouTube like videos about how to do it, put up a whole shelf by myself. And these shelves were like, basically, these were 4 feet apart. And I put up a hole on the third car garage, and then it was basically like I put it by myself, and just like learning how to saw wood, how to like, you know, put it in different angles so you can put up a shelf that's like self holding, and it won't come crumbling in the next couple of years, but it's still like solid enough, like metal, and just learning the nitty gritty things of like, okay, I want to take care of plants because like this summer as well, like I was like, okay, cool, I want to put more trees. So buying the different types of trees and then like planting them myself, making sure I have a timeline of watering them and stuff like that, doing more yard work, and then also like the adventure of figuring out landscape. So that's when I got the drone because I was like, okay, I want to see more landscape and I want to see the beauty of it and then potentially share it with the world. So trying to like polish the skill of photography in terms of like drone action and just being able to like, you know, do more recording and editing on my own without having to like take an advanced course in any of that, but just learning it on my own and making it work. So
that's cool. No, I think everyone should have something that we're constantly learning something about. It could literally be learning how to cook, learning how to dance, how to take photography, learning about someone through reading, right? I think we should all have at least one thing that we're constantly new at. We're still newbies at, because it kind of is both a humbling thing and also perspective thing, and it allows you to connect with people. There's, I guess, so many benefits to it, and I really don't see any cons to be like, oh, you shouldn't learn anything more, like, unless it's like taken away from like family time or taken away, unless that time could be better used in other areas of your life, right? Because sometimes learning can be used as a procrastination mechanism, because at times like you have something important you have to do, but I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read, I'll rather do this. It's still a good thing, right? Or like you could be like, oh, I'm watching a documentary on this thing, I'm learning, it's positive, right? So sometimes we can try to trick ourselves into thinking that what we are doing is better, but most of the time I want to say learning is something that we should all have or be doing at the same time. What's something that gets you excited nowadays?
Just being able to live a free life where I'm just like free will. So moving around and just be like, oh, cool, I just want to go do this, and then just going to do it. Like I want to go hike, and then just going and then just hiking, seeing the scenery, or like I just want to go for a drive, and you just drive around, see.
You have the freedom to
do all
to
those
drive
things.
To the mountains, freedom to move to a different state if you want, freedom to learn something new.
Because I believe like just the freedom that we have right now is one of the cool things that we can ever have, because most people didn't have that back in the past. So if we have it, it interests me. Like my blood started rushing once I figure I want to do something cool.
Do you value freedom or money more? Which one do you value more?
I think I value freedom more over money, because in this generation, like we think money equals freedom, but money equals more problems. Because like if you're doing money stuff, now you have to figure out how to make sure you keep that in like the stream of money coming without having any situations happening. Because like money always has its ups and downs, and you don't always want to live your life all about money, because when you're involved in money a lot, you miss the other opportunities of life around you, because you forget about like, oh, you could have done this, but what's limiting you? Because you can live the free will life. Because one of the books that I loved was Into the Wild, that I read like years ago. And I still continue to like go. Is that the one with
the movie? Did they make a movie from?
Yeah, they made it into
where he dies in the bus.
Yep.
Spoiler alert. Sorry. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So
afterwards.
Basically, like looking about it and having the worth and everything, and then thinking like you can live a life without money, and how he did everything without like thinking of money. Because you can make money in all avenues if you want, but like not being dependent on the money that you have is something that helps in situations. Because like for example, I've done road trips to California from Colorado, done road trips to like Utah, Moab, and now like looking into other adventures. Like once like I just want to like travel and move around the states and just like see things without being limited because of like, oh, you don't have the funds for that, or like you got to keep working to keep that funds up. So I save and then make sure I have enough to like take me through the road, the gas and stuff like that. But the aspect of just like living life, not worrying about now I have to like go find a hotel or anything. You can just camp and stuff like that and just be free with the wild and that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I like to live by that as well. It kind of goes to kind of like what you deem as a standard of life. If you can lower your standard of living to camping, a little stove, can of beans, right? These very rudimental things, right? It kind of goes to show your flexibility of life. You could move to a little studio apartment where your kitchen, bathroom is all in the same place, and you're saving money, but now with this money, you can use it to do different experiences, whether you want to give it back to the people or you want to go scuba diving. You could do anything. You're free to kind of move around. Compared to when you lock yourself into some luxury goods, sometimes the Lamborghini and all these other valuables are more of shackles than anything that give you more freedom in life. So I for sure would recommend camping in general, I like to think that everyone should do, but it goes to kind of show that we should all be okay with life not being as luxurious and or as how do I say it? Like, because right now it has a lot of commodities, and we have a lot of good things in life, right? And sometimes we gotta go backwards to kind of realize we don't need all this extra stuff in our house and whatnot. All right. I guess a couple more questions, then I'll release you to nature.
I gotta go pick up my little brother. He
Absolutely.
just finished his football game, so I gotta drive all the way to East High School.
That's over by the hospital, right?
The old hospital by Washington Park.
Okay, over on University. Mm-hmm. Actually, isn't it right next to Wash Park? Right below Wash Park?
Yeah, it's like right next to it. I took him there this morning. They wanted them there like game started at 10. They wanted them there at 8. So it was like an early morning drive kind of thing.
Just to get them practiced and loose. Okay, let's see. What is your biggest failure so far?
I think my biggest failure so far is not living as much as I could in high school. Because I feel like in high school, I just did things according to the book. I didn't really have friends and, do that kind of thing where you just live life. And it's not, the more that I think about it, I guess it's not just high school. It's just in general, not living life, because coming into college and just still being that.
What does it mean to live life?
Living life is more like being outgoing, taking adventures, and then taking risk. Because why not? The challenges are there. You just gotta conquer them, and just always being oh no, but I gotta do this, and it be limited by the things in the world that don't really matter, because we don't plan things accordingly. We just want to get things, because college was more about, I just want to get through college. I just want to do the right thing and get the good grades and all that. And then I started realizing that no matter how much you try, the good grades will find you if you really understand what you're doing. But if not, you will struggle and you still won't get it. But at that point, you're sacrificing living the life in order to be free to just doing it for the grades. And because I felt once I figured out that I didn't need to live the college life for grades, I started seeing more improvements in my grades, because I was now learning more and not just learning for the grades aspect to pass exam. I was learning to have that experience, and that kind of came in handy, because throughout my internships, they were all about we don't really care about what you learned to pass. We just care about what the experience and how it impacted you in terms of your knowledge of engineering and stuff like that. So it pretty much got me out of that scope to understand all that avenue of things. So
yeah, I guess don't try to focus too much on grades. I guess to go counter to culture, everyone's focus on grades, get good grades. But I think as I grow up and mature, I've come to realize that grades don't really matter too much, as long as we're passing grades, right? So C and above. And you are easy to work with. I think jobs are more than willing, because I think my job didn't even check my GPA, and I was like, can you actually check it though? I worked hard to get to what I had. Can you check it?
That's an issue. You work hard for it and they just ignore it.
But that goes to tell me it's shitty, but it goes to tell me I shouldn't put that much value into those things, right? Because as you said it, I think for me, I've come to realize that I value more experiences and sharing good times with people than I do me studying hard for something in a library for X amount of hours. And to that point, I have many adventures this summer planned. So I now have another person that I could add to this growing circle of people that I know like to send it, in a sense, and have fun and put yourself in some uncomfortable situations that will make you grow as a person. So we'll do some 14ers, some camping stuff, go fishing, explore the world, because I think that's why we're here, why we're in this planet, just to explore. Exactly. So if you get a phone call from me, you expect something of that nature. Of course, as soon as
the boot
comes off and I have something more to go off of. So I guess I have a couple more questions, and then we'll conclude. And one of them is, you said you were reading something, right? Are you reading anything right now?
Right now, I think the book that I'm reading is It's rich guy, poor dad.
Rich
Poor guy.
Rich guy, or rich dad, poor dad, right?
Yeah, rich dad, poor dad. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm reading because like after like the summer of like knowing about investments and all those kinds of things, I was like, okay, cool. I need to venture out, like just stick into like money in the bank, making money in the like
Have money, make
work.
money.
Yeah, make money, make money. So basically, I decided to like read about it, and the more that I read the book, the more I understand that circumstances like there are people with rich dads out there, and then there are people with poor dads out there, and that attitude actually impacts the way people live life because those who already have it, they don't really work for it. They just get it, like they just get their whatever they need, and then the people that don't have it, they actually struggle to make it. And I feel like I'm in that situation where I gotta understand their way of struggling to make it in order to like make sure that like when I have kids, they understand that you're not just being handed things, so you have the ability to just like mess up everything that you have within your rims, but understanding that even though you have it, you still have to like do something in order to earn what you already have. So
Awesome. Yeah, I think that book, I haven't read it, but what I think, or from the summaries I read, is like there's things to be learned from a rich dad and both your poor dad, right? There's things that you should try to gather from both situations. Well, I think that's all I have. I guess at this point, I should want to give you a plug time, or I guess how can someone reach you through your Instagram? How through email? Like if someone has any questions about engineering, ROTC. We're talking about the going into the Air Force, some robotics things, anything that we talked to, right? Is there anything, or like how can people reach you?
I'd say like people can reach me through like my email, and it's like kojo.otoo56 at yahoo gmail.com. So basically that's the one that I check often in terms of like things going on. And then like you can check my Instagram at, it's like Ghanaian Prince 56, so GHANAIANPRINCE 56. So like I believe like there's a lot to learn from other people, and if anyone ever wants to just like talk or try to figure out life, like I'm totally okay with just like figuring out a time to talk to people and just try to do like let them know about my struggles and what I had to do in order to like overcome those adversities, and then also try to figure out how best we can help each other, because we're only human if we help each other, like I've been talking about. So there's a lot that can be done from just communicating with others and letting them know that you're here for them, even when they think no one is there. So
that's awesome. That's a fantastic philosophy. And if anyone, for whatever reason, didn't catch any of that information from Kojo, reach out to me and I'll gladly connect you to Kojo and his resources. And just through these conversations and these podcasts, and I think of them more as just conversations, I also see vast connection points where like there's other people in this world that I've connected with that I think you resonate well with and would click with, and just and anyone that sits opposite of me or like in that chair right there, I see other potentials and or other people that can benefit you and or you'd find great commonalities with. So that's something that I will also try to strive to do, is getting those people in the same room together. It doesn't have to be in a podcast sense, but we could just go get coffee, chat, and hang out, and you again establish another connection. And you just never know with connections. They're like a mystery box of opportunities. You just never know what you can get from establishing a connection with somebody, So I guess that's something that I will, me personally, strive to do. If you feel that you would want to do that, or I won't ask you first, but hey, me and some friends are going to go hang out. Do you want to go and hang out with us? And by that sense, you could decide yourself if you want to go and meet new people or whatnot. But I do, just from my past experiences, do believe that there are some people that share a lot of commonality with you, and maybe could also bring our powers together to create something beautiful or within other people. So It was great talking to you, Kojo. It's been a while, but I do want to continue. It doesn't have to be as long as we have that connection. And I think the value that I see in connections is that at any point we can pick up where we started, right? There isn't any lag in that. So I want to foster that relationship with you where we can pick up where we started. It doesn't matter the time. So thank you for coming and doing this for me.
Yeah. I'll be there.
Appreciate you, brother. All right. That concludes the Eric Vargas experiment number 6. Peace out, everybody.